There we go. I'd say go for it, Jackie. Or I can. You know what? Whatever. It's fine. Go for it.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, as we are trying to get ourselves organized here. You know that this is an informal call, so you know what happens, happens. This is Jackie Travieso. I'm joined by Dale Ziegler. This is MVP Office Hours for September 6th. And hopefully you can see Dale's screen. He's going to run tech today and help me facilitate. But what you can see there is kind of our standard slide where we list all of the upcoming Dreamin' events that we have heard of, know about, have seen published. If you have not attended one of these events, and there's one local to you, we always highly recommend that you take the opportunity to try and attend them. They are put on by community members. There's always a Salesforce presence, but they are organized by people like you and me. We also have some other links listed there where you can find some other opportunities to attend Salesforce-led events and things like webinars and other opportunities such as that. If you haven't had an opportunity to attend one of your local user group meetings, that's another great place for you to get among the masses of Salesforce-minded people and see what they can do to help you and how you can help them so we can continue to give back to the community. So there's a couple of links at the bottom of your screen there.
And of course, what's super exciting about seeing this list get shorter and shorter is that means Dreamforce is right around the corner.
Yes. November, what is it, November?
The
week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
the week before Thanksgiving.
Week of the 18th.
Yes, there you go. All right, so we can go on to the next slide there. So this call, for those of you who are new, first timers, or maybe haven't had an opportunity to join us in a bit, this is a call for everybody. So everyone participates. We encourage everyone to share their experiences. You're welcome to add your input, ask questions, make recommendations, and of course, share references. If you haven't already, go ahead and mute yourself so we can minimize some background noise. And then to ask a question, you can do one of two things. You can raise your hand in the chat to kind of get in a queue if we have a line, or you can simply unmute yourself if we've got some dead air and just announce yourself and ask your question. We're going to, if you have resources that you'd like to share with the group, feel free to post those in the chat and then we'll share those out as well. And then we can also allow you to share your screen. The only thing we do is say, caution so that you're not sharing anything that is proprietary or confidential, because this is a recorded session and we will be sharing this out for others to watch or for you to reference at a later date. And so this call, go ahead, Dale.
Well, I was going to say, on the happy side of that recording, we do upload this to YouTube if you haven't already subscribed to the MVP Office Hours channel. Super easy to find. Subscribe and you'll get notified when the recordings are posted. And I think we have recordings all the way back to episode 3. And this week is number 159. So there's a huge library to pull from.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dale. So this call meets the first and third Friday of the month. And again, it is just an open Q&A. If you haven't already bookmarked the registration bit.ly on the left-hand side, you might want to do that. We do send out emails, but if you happen to miss it, you might want to bookmark that so you can register. We will post this again on community Twitter and the YouTube channel that Dale just mentioned. And we can go to the next slide. So we have a handful of MVPs on the line. I'd just like to take an opportunity to have you guys unmute yourself real quick and just announce yourself and where you're out of and the areas that you like to dabble in most. Carlos is on the line. He's an MVP. Carlos, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Carlos Siqueira. I'm out of Tampa, Florida. And I like to do a lot of stuff related to Lightning, and I try to focus exactly on adoption communities, not the product community, but people get engaged, get involved with the Salesforce or HANA, getting back to the community, bring people up to speed to learn Salesforce and adoption.
Great, thank you so much. Do we have any other MVPs besides Dale and myself?
Yeah, hey Jackie, Jared's Jared's
Hey,
on.
Jared. Oh, good to hear your voice. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, apologies for being late here. Yeah, hey everyone, Jared Kingston, based out of Kansas City. Really do a lot around Salesforce communities and Flow.
Fantastic. Dale.
Dale Ziegler, also out of Kansas City, opposite corner of the metro from Jared. I love core functionality, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, process automation. If it's declarative, better believe I've tried to break it.
Is that your motto? Is that your tagline?
Well, now I've started putting in tried instead of I just break it.
I just break it. That's great. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. This is Jackie. I'm out of the Charlotte area. I like to dabble most in the Sales Cloud. And of course, learning all things Lightning as best as we can with all of the new features and functionalities that are being rolled out. All right. With that, let's go ahead and go to the next slide and just like to mention that there's other opportunities besides the MVP Office Hours US. Carlos runs a Portuguese group. You do not have to speak Portuguese. He does a fantastic job of translating, but they always appreciate as many participants as they can get to join in and discuss and crowdsource solutions. So thank you, Carlos, for leading that group. EMEA meets the last Thursday of the month, and I think that's it right now for our active groups. And with that said, we can jump right into questions and comments. Before doing that, I want to mention something that you may not be aware of. Pluralsight is offering free access to their library this weekend. It begins today, runs through Sunday. You might want to check it out, and it's Pluralsight, S-I-G-H-T. They have over 6,500 titles in their library, so I'll be checking that out after this call. And I don't know that this is something that they have done more than this one time, but it's a pretty cool opportunity. Anyone have experience with it?
It is a phenomenal resource, and I mean, if you like what you see when it's free, it's a very, very small cost to get a subscription. It really isn't that expensive, and honestly, I hate the word cost. I choose to see it as an investment because you can get so much out of it.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and get to some questions, and I'm just going to start at the top of our chat list. So Scott S. has a question. Scott, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi. So I posted this to the forum. I just want to make sure that that no declarative wizards can help me solve my problem without code. So my objective, sorry, I didn't post it to your forum. I think I posted it to the architects forum.
Gotcha.
What I'm looking to accomplish here is on like a contact record or this type of record, I'm looking to have this approval process. But then I looked up approvals, and I don't think it really fits into that approval model where you have another object that then gets turned into something. An example would be I have a contact and I change the email. I want this not to actually be reflected on the record. So if some batch process happens, it still uses the old email address. But another user, the people who want to approve these things, have the opportunity to then approve the email, and then that email address is then actually on the record. And any batch process or operations that query that record receive the new email address. Is there anything in Salesforce that has default functionality that has the ability to create that type of, pending changes concept?
So first question, have you drawn this out on a flowchart or anything that if we let you share your screen, you could walk us through, or have you started to develop anything in an org that you could show us? Or is this all conceptual at this point?
It's conceptual. I know how I would
Gotcha.
do it if it was code. So like if it's code, what's going to occur is there's going to be a new object, which will what would happen is we'd add like a button to the top that would create a flow, and that flow would then write to this new object, and that new object would then be displayed in either a visual force page or some other flow, if we could manage to do the display in the flow, and then the person would approve them in that, and then they'd get written back to the actual main record. It's not the end of the world to code that, but I'd rather do things declarative if possible. Also, I'd rather just buy something, or not actually have custom code to maintain. Would be like our primary objective. And it kind of seems like a pattern that other people would have wanted to implement at some point in time. You have like a bunch of people out on the floor who get these changes in, but you don't want to you want some sort of quality assurance on top of what they do before it actually gets committed to the contact record.
What are you looking for in quality assurance? Are you just looking for email format? Or sending a test to say, confirm that this is the correct email?
Nothing that can be automated. A person has to be involved. And this is not just email. I just used email as a way of easily describing it. They want to verify a lot of things. Like we link accounts and our finance, so the stuff is important, right? And people have made mistakes in the past. So people have made mistakes, and people want to prevent people from making mistakes again. At the same time, making the argument that this is also maybe like a governance / training issue. But as a technical person, it's important for me to have solutions before I make those arguments strongly, right? Like, it sounds lame if I'm like, well, maybe we should just train people better. I can say that to people after I say, well, this is the technical solution. I don't really necessarily suggest this technical solution because, it's what's going to happen is these people are going to get a bunch of crap they're going to have to look through. Like they're creating a lot of work for themselves. But it's what they want to do. So I'd like to be able to, first I'll try to convince them not to do it. But before that, I want the best solution that requires the least maintenance of code.
Squire asks, how many total fields are you asking to track? Lots or just some?
Lots, and potentially across multiple objects.
The reason I ask is I've seen, it's not great and it's probably a maintenance nightmare, but I've seen people use custom metadata and just a really thin object that says, I want to change this thing to this value, and it just triggers an approval, and then the custom metadata then can figure out, like, if that record's approved, fill in this field with this value on this. You basically turn it into almost like a field tracking history object that has an approval step to make those changes. But I mean, what you're describing, it feels like it might be a never-ending challenge to keep it up to date all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now the other option is that you could do something with field history tracking to just like do some sort of audit. But again, there's a lot of ownership on a steward to make sure that those things are approved. So,
and the problem with that, I think, maybe is that I looked at the field history tracking, but the problem is if we have like a mailing or something goes out, right? Like these trigger different things, right? So somebody makes a mistake and links something, that'll actually like contact some API, which then sends it out to our clearinghouse and actually makes changes in other systems.
Oh, gotcha.
So we're looking to like have the layer on top, so none of those integrations end up getting triggered.
Gotcha.
But that's still great information. I appreciate it. I won't hold up anybody else. I'm just pushing it out there. I think I have a solution. As I said, my general solution, and this will actually deal with multiple objects. This is going to be one object which represents a change. And every field, even across all objects, will be in that. So what will happen is, let's say we have this concept of this financial household, right? And then we have a contact. But let's say within one transaction, I'm actually changing things across these multiple objects. That'll still be on one row. And then that will be presented to the user to approve. But the nice thing about that is that since everything's on one row, that whole thing can be committed as one transaction. Yeah, so that's it. So anyways, thank you for listening to me talk about it and give me some feedback.
Of course. Good question,
Yeah.
Scott. Okay, we have a question in the chat from Joanna. Joanna, you want to unmute yourself? They are on the NPSP. So the
Hopefully
nonprofit.
everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we use Classy for online donations. And right now as they come in, it was my name since I'm the integrated user for it. So I created a process builder to update it to be our individual gift processor, Alex. So he becomes the owner of that opportunity once it comes in, so we can help manage it, etc. And as I mentioned, I wanted to take it like one step further and also make him the contact owner. So we're working on cleaning up some of our contact ownership. And one of the things that we're doing is individual donations are all going to go to him. And then some of our participants for some of our events are going to go to somebody else. So what I'm looking to do is figure out a way to also make him the contact owner for anybody that donates through Classy. And so I'm having a hard time figuring out the best way to do this. And I don't know if it's because it's the link between the contact owner and the opportunity. The process builder is working fine to get the opportunity owner updated, but I just can't figure out how to get it to the contact owner. I don't know if that makes sense.
And you're only using a process builder. There's no flow or anything else involved.
I haven't tried Flow yet. I don't know if that's the way to go. I guess that's kind of my question is what other stuff or what else should I be looking at to potentially do this?
You may need to simply because opportunities and contacts aren't directly related to each other for process builder to leverage that direct relationship.
Okay.
Flow, then of course, the playground's wide open. But I think simply because of that lack of relationship, direct relationship, I don't know that you could do it in just process builder.
Okay. And so with this, it should be, I don't really know much about Flow. So just basic understanding and going through and reading, hopefully I should be able to figure some of this out, or do you have any recommendations? I know we have it in some of our process builders, etc., but I haven't done much outside of Trailhead with actually like setting up flows.
So really for this specific example, you're not, so I'm going to read the text really quickly here. So you want to make the contact owner the same as the opportunity owner.
Correct, on any opportunities coming in through Classy.
So you could cover a lot of this in the process builder in terms of assigning the opportunity owner if that's already working. And then in the same, let me get out of this. In that same node of steps to do, you can take that opportunity owner ID, and then if you know the contact ID, those then just become the variables that you pass into a flow that really just has one node in it, which is the contact ID, the opportunity owner ID. So update the contact owner with the opportunity owner ID. Flow, I mean, you're extending into just one extra step. So let me, and I'm multitasking on this one. So if we, let's call this op test, sorry. What's the triggering object? Is it opportunity?
Would it help to share my screen or
yeah?
not?
If you
Okay. So I have it up in our sandbox. Okay.
All right, go for it.
All right. Hopefully you could see my process builder. I know I have a couple of screens, so hopefully you're seeing the.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, we have it on obviously opportunities when it comes in. It's closed one from Classy. Right. We have it doing a couple actions. One of them's updating our pipeline stage, with this one changing the record owner is what I've had created already. And this is what's working for us, right? It's just that extra step now. So I don't know where to go from here.
Okay, so let me So you already have that. So let me take the screen back.
Okay.
And we'll do this. So in a new flow, auto launch, and we are going to update an existing record. So let's update contact owner. Yes, so, and I'm admittedly still getting familiar with the new flow interface. Resource type, variable, yes. So we need to define that we have a contact ID, allow for input. That's one piece. If anybody who knows the flow PMs is watching, that's annoying. New resource on a variable. Then why won't you let me reference it?
Yeah, because Dale, I think it's because of the type of variable that you created. So choose your second selection there on the radio. Yep.
Oh, that's right. I'm keeping it old school with the green screen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And then now, yeah, then you can.
Where the record. So what we're doing here is we want to update the contact object where the ID is that variable that I just created. And then we want to update the owner with, we're going to create a new variable. Owner ID, text, yep, allow for input.
And doesn't it annoy you that after you create it, it doesn't automatically fill it in?
That's the piece that if we know who the flow PMs are, please, that drives me absolutely insane. Anyway, enough about my gripes. So this is going to be the one node that you need. We're going to say we know the contact record we need to update. So we will have already passed that in. We know what we need to update it with. So we'll do that. And then you can save it as whatever you want to call it, contact owner update. But then when you get back, that's literally it. So that then when you're in your process builder in that same window of these are the things I need to do when it's opportunity closed 1, and you say run a flow, it's going to ask you what, if any, variables you want to pass into the flow. You already know the opportunity, you already know the owner ID, you already know the contact ID, and it's just going to give you a list of, or a couple of lines where you can say, this is my variable in my process builder. When you have to activate the flow first, so that it knows what variables, but then you just say, here's my owner ID, it goes to op owner ID. I know my contact record ID, it goes to contact ID, and away you go. So I can stop sharing if, well, you probably don't have any flows to show, but that's it. That's all it would
Great. Do. Okay, thank you. I think I have an idea what to do and have a great starting point. So thanks so much for walking me through this. If I have any other questions, I will reach out. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's go to Jen has a question. Jen Laneson.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen. Oh, okay.
Go ahead. I just stopped.
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
It should be my Salesforce one. Okay. So in our contacts are actually open to everyone. What we did was we added a child object on the contact that identifies the users that know that contact. So it's owned by a generic user, so like this one. And then for my related list, for my my list view, I have for my contacts, so I can get my contacts, only the ones that I have a known to record. I have that. So what I did was I added a field on the contact that puts in all the account IDs, or the user IDs of all the users in the known to. But I found that if I merge, that doesn't get updated. It gets overwritten by whatever is on the master record when I merge. Like, how would I combine that on a merge?
So first of all, that is genius. That is absolute genius. Can you show us what the field is, what the field type, like how you're actually doing this?
I think it's just a text field, and I'm storing. So every time I add a record on the known to, I'm actually just populating it up to the account at the contact using Process Builder. But it's I think it's a field. Yeah, it's just a text. It's just a text field.
Okay, so we're looking at. So this is the contact object, and it's a custom field.
Mm-hmm.
So then, in a merge situation, text fields are going to be subject to whichever value gets picked.
Mm-hmm. You said in the master. You can't combine them. I want to combine them. So I could really write a flow or a process builder, but then I'd only want it triggered when it's a merge, and I don't know when I would know when a record has been merged.
So can you show me the known to object, the child object?
It's really just contact user. Like I only want if I build something to combine them, if I'm merging, I want it only when it's merged. I don't want it to fire all the time. I couldn't figure out how to get that.
Yeah, what I'm trying to think about, I mean, you have a master detail relationship to contact. I'm trying to think of if somehow a roll-up summary field could help you get around that, but even then, when you're doing this from a list view, you're confined to the contact object. You don't necessarily get to look at the child object.
Well,
but doesn't the merge combine all the children on a lookup version versus a master detail version?
Yeah, but on my known to field, which is what I'm using. So this field is actually what I'm using in my list view. So if you look at my list view, my known to contact, that's my custom field equal.
The issue is that the list view is on the contact object, and you can't leverage any of the child data values to get a list view to work at that object, and it's a text field that's driving it.
Yeah, and the reason I asked is because on update.
Field, right?
Go ahead, Jen.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't roll up and concatenate a text field.
You could with a process, though. So you could have, rather than use the master, do the roll up to the known to, you could use a process and a flow to concatenate all of the known to records into a string. And then on edit, you'd be able to say, what's that?
I want to fire it only when the contact is merged.
Right. So, I mean, it would be an edit on the contact. It would still work every time, regardless whether you've merged or just done an update. It would continuously populate the same value on fire until you actually do a merge, and then it would concatenate all the children values into a string.
Because then okay, so help me understand this. So what is your actual field that you're filtering on in your list view?
Actually, I have another field. that's on the contact. I don't know if it's the roundabout way, but
No, I
I
think
have
you're
another
definitely
one.
on the right path. It's that merging the values together that is causing the issue.
So I tried to do the known tos contains my user ID, but it doesn't. It
right.
didn't work. So I had another checkbox that
Right.
said,
So so what is that actual
able to
field? Is it a? I mean, I'm assuming it's a running user or.
Yeah. So it's running the user. Known tos contains my user ID.
So if you were able to take Squire's approach of just on edit, on update, which a merge would be folded into that, instead of contains known to's the user ID, if you did $user dot full name, your process builder is going to take all those values and put it together, and then if it's able to, or well, I guess it wouldn't be contains because you're in the right place. I think we just need to swap out a function and which running user field you're looking at. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
So what I need is really, I get that I would have to build something on, but I was thinking if there's a way to call it on an edit, on a merge instead of just a full edit, because an edit requires every time I make an edit.
Unfortunately, I don't think merge is one of the triggerable actions.
No, definitely not. But I mean, I understand where you're coming from, except that I don't think you should be too concerned about the merge versus an edit causing to happen. I mean, it's just a quick process that concatenates the string, even if it's repopulating the same value. You're not modifying, hundreds of thousands of contacts per hour or anything. It's going to just update and really show no measurable change to the contact until it matters, and then it'll continue to work.
A merge does fire a trigger, but it's an update trigger on the record that you keep.
Right.
And a delete trigger on the one that you lose.
But Jen, I'm assuming you probably don't want to go down the code route. You're hoping to keep this declarative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and merge you definitely couldn't do in a process builder or a workflow. I mean, you'd be looking at code to do that.
Well, it would count as an edit event on both the winning record and the losing record. Or an update.
Yeah, but process doesn't see the delete as an edit.
Right.
Right.
So there is I can't do a roll-up summary, right, on the text field. It's only amount, sum. I tried to see if there was a way to concatenate, but no.
I mean, I guess what you could definitely tinker with. I've never done it myself. And Sarah, I was thinking declarative lookup, the DLRS as well, but with that fire in real time, and that's an additional install. But with the roll-up summary, could you, I know it's finicky with dates, but could you put a running user formula on the known to object and then have at the contact level count the number of records where that box is true? Is the formula engine robust enough to look at a running user for that to work? Because I mean, you can't do relative dates in roll-up summaries, which makes me wonder, could you also not do running users? If you can, what you can do is put your running user formula on the child object, and then at the contact level, your roll-up formula counts the number of records where that box is true, and then this list view says, show me all records where that roll-up summary is greater than 0.
Dale, I'm trying to remember if you can roll up summary a formula field.
No, you cannot.
You can't roll up. I thought you could have I swear I've done it.
You can do it as long as there is no referential to other fields and date fields.
Right.
Yep.
So, but would running user count as a relative date type of field is my question. Because ultimately that would be your formula field is this the running user, yes or no? Because you have the user lookup.
Yeah. The trick behind that is you create a formula field, return 1 if it is a running user, return 0 if it is not a running user, and then you just sum up that into a roll up, and it accumulates that. But it only works if you are updating the child records.
Well, I don't think it would matter on an update, though, is what I'm...
So would it take a lot of resources if I do a flow every time on edit?
No. I mean, it takes the same amount, right? I mean, you'd have to scope it for what your actual use case is. So how many contacts are you modifying in an amount of time?
I don't think a lot, but...
And more importantly, actually probably not even the biggest concern would be the contact as much as how many known twos are you evaluating over time.
Oh, yeah, it's not a lot. Maybe 5. A max of 5.
Sure. I mean, it's a little bit kludgy, but it allows you to use this cool functionality you've built. You just have to update that. Is this my contact field in a new and unique way? Okay. We do something similar where we use account teams, have the account teams generate a text field, and then the text field gets evaluated. It's kind of the same idea.
So my other question was on the list view, I can't do this one, right? The $user.id. I can't use that because that's why I have that checkbox field.
Yeah.
That's why I have this field.
Yep. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to build a formula into the formula.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, wait, what?
Like you can't have that value evaluate a formula, right?
No, this one.
Oh, so this one. Oh.
Actually, this condition, I wanted to put it in the list view.
So what I've forgotten through this whole conversation is you can't see my screen to see what I'm trying to build. You know, I'm pointing at it. Can't you see me pointing at it?
So like this one, known twos contains, and I want to do.
Right.
I can't do that, right?
No.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I had that. Now I remember why I had that checkbox field.
I'm sorry, I was half listening. What did you try that did not work?
So on my list view, to get my contacts, actually, but the point of this one was I wanted to, if my ID is in the list of known twos, I wanted to use that for this formula, this logic here. That's actually what I want on my list view criteria, but I couldn't get the $user.id.
Yeah, you can't get the value to evaluate a formula to determine its value in order to compare back to the list view.
And that's what I just figured out the hard way. It's not even letting me create a roll-up summary on my running user checkbox field. Yeah. So, okay. I swear I had done that in the past, but oh well.
Okay, that was all I wanted. I wanted to see if
I mean,
to get away with.
I mean, I really think though, and maybe you said it and I wasn't paying attention because I was off in my own world trying to put this in my dev org. But it's to Squire's point, if your process builder can merge the name values and then instead of evaluating on running user ID, can you run off of running user name?
Well, and actually, now I think about it still.
And if that name is contained in that string, then you have a true.
And for that matter, you could concatenate the IDs for that. I mean, if you can pull the names, you can pull the IDs and then still evaluate on user ID. But
I'd rather do IDs because I feel like there might, I don't know.
They're static.
There'll come a time where we'll have, the ID is the one that's truly unique, right?
Yep.
The name, you could have two users that have the same name.
Yeah, or changes their name when they get married or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, the ID is a solid approach as well, but then your contain statement is essentially just saying if you find the ID of the running user within that string, then awesome. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I have on my check.
Right. So it's the middle piece of populating that string of IDs.
Yeah, that's that I'm missing. Oh well, I'll do flow or process
And
flow then.
well, and to Sarah's point though, investigate. You may want to investigate DLRS as well,
Okay.
because it may also let you dedupe. Would DLRS, if you're trying to concatenate string values, would it let you dedupe within the string? Because when you're and the reason I ask is when you're merging two contacts, if Jen is on both contacts, you don't want her to then show up in the new string twice.
Yeah, I don't believe you have the ability to evaluate the records you're DLRSing for. I made up a verb.
Go for it.
So, but I think it literally just all it can do is evaluate the trigger and then do the roll up that you're trying to generate. I don't think it'll dedupe itself.
Even if it's in there twice, the filter would still work.
The filter on the list view, yes.
Yeah.
But you would, I think Dale is saying, like you might see Gen 2, 3, 4 times as contacts continue to merge together, and the DLRS would just add them all together.
Because it's
that's
an open
fine,
text
because
field.
they'll show up twice in the known too anyway, so.
Yeah.
Well, but my concern is with that text value, you're going to have to set a max length on there at some point, and you don't want to have a text field that's a bajillion characters long if you don't need to.
255 is what you're going to end up with, probably.
But 255 divided by 15 or 18,
yeah,
and with no maintenance, you could eat at that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You could evaluate a short text though too and go to 1,000 if you. I mean, now you're just now you're just doing your regression testing to figure out what's the best answer. But
right.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Sarah says, I think there's an option to concatenate distinct only from the help file. Concatenate distinct. This works. Here, nobody wants to hear me read. Hold on one second. And there's a link. Oh, Sarah, you are awesome. So let's put this back up here. So if we had Dan, not Dan, concatenate, we would return a text field. But with concatenate, you would get just Dan, not Dan. So that's a function right there. I'd look at DLRS.
Okay. Perfect.
And that's Andy Fawcett, so
Yeah.
that's solid.
Exactly.
And this is a free tool?
Yes. Yep. It's an unmanaged, kind of hidden package through GitHub, and we'll share the link.
Okay.
We'll share the links in the deck after, but it's one of the most popular, hidden, well-known tools out there. Like, if you get the link to it, then you're golden. But because of package security, all that kind of stuff, it's not on the App Exchange.
Okay.
And Jen, Sarah has dropped the link in the chat if you want to grab it now. Thank you for that, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right, good conversation. Good solution in there. All right, so let's see who's next. Sarah does have a question.
Hi, everyone. All right, so this is hopefully a pretty simple one, but I just have an issue that when I have a bunch of flows, and we created different list views for those flows. So there's an active flows. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. You can't really see this.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, here, let me stop.
I forgot about that.
There you go.
Yeah, it would just be easier to show it, I think. Okay, so you should be seeing setup home.
Yes.
Okay, so if I click on flows, and we have a couple different list views. So inactive flows, active flows using older version, active flows. And the thing is that it defaults to inactive flows whenever I open the flows, and I would much rather it default to active flows. And I was wondering if anybody knows how to do that.
I know that straight away. Just put the 1 in front of that name. It will be the first one to show up on the list.
Okay, so it's like
Just
some
put one dot active flows. It will show up on the top.
Okay. Because it's showing in the top because it starts with A instead of I, but like when I open it.
Nah, we saw
Anyway.
that.
All right.
Just put one in front of that one dot or something. So it will be ordered by that.
Cool. Does it have to be in the
Is
unique?
it the label or the developer? Is it the unique name that sorts it?
Yeah.
I think the view name, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Let's try this. No, still says inactive flows.
Try the both, just one dot in both the name and the, I think name only, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Not this one.
Is there not?
Because you put one
Put
under,
sort order somewhere or
put
default.
one underscore, I think you put the like a one.
Right.
Put the one dot on the name.
Okay.
So has anybody else, when they're looking at someone else's screen, tried to scroll up and down and get frustrated that it's not moving with you? Because that's me right now. Is there not a default?
Is there somewhere?
Is there a default somewhere in the list views that allows you to essentially pin it
No.
as, I mean, not pin, but no? Okay.
So it won't let me start the unique name with a 1, but let's try it just dot and see if that does anything. So
It worked for us. I don't know why it is not, but
no, still inactive flows. It's not the end of the world, but it's just kind of annoying.
true.
Is there any possibility that it's sorting by the ID of the list view, which is super arbitrary but frustrating?
Yeah, try the one dot there in the ID.
No, I mean the actual the record ID of the list view.
Or I wonder if it's like the order they were created in. So
Yeah,
like,
I feel like if you overwrote the original active flows with that one, that it remembers that that's what it was when it started,
uh-huh.
right? Because like that sequence, there's no rhyme or reason to that list that you're looking at right now,
Right.
and it just feels like it's like you were saying, Dale. I think it's the order of creation might be on some of these default ones.
So like if we have a new and is active equals true. See if that'll work. So now maybe when I go to flows, hopefully it'll be that one. Nope. Just
Well,
really-
but what we're wondering though is inactive
ID.
flows coming up first because it was created first and it will always and forever.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
either
maybe.
it's either the system created date or the ID of the list view that is
Got it.
dictating the order. And the
Okay,
default.
well, maybe I'll just try creating and deleting a bunch and see if I can figure it out.
Right, which goes to some of the things that don't ever get talked about in Salesforce. That even something like list views, you would think would be a universally owned product across the company. Not necessarily. You have your flow PMs who then say, and now I'm going to incorporate list views. When it's not a universal product, some of those products have their own little nuances to them that don't jive with their similar functionalities somewhere else within Salesforce. That's one of them.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, I think I heard or read where in Winter 20, our next release, they're changing the flows. Like when you go to the flows page there to see that the paused and waiting flows is either going to be on a different page or a tab or something. That sound familiar to anybody? So it makes me think they may have rewritten that page.
right. Okay, well, I'll experiment. But good to know it's not just me. Or maybe it is, but
I think for some of us, we've seen it and been frustrated by it, and you just kind of become numb to it. You're not far enough along to be numb to it.
Exactly. All right.
All right, great. Thank you for the question. Pat.
Yeah, so since we're talking flows and processes, my question is this. As part of my app that I distribute, I've got flows that people can use to do things like notify them when a text comes in, and those flows and or processes are triggered by platform events. The challenge I have is that if it's just a flow and it sits and waits for a platform event, that flow works great for about 2 months, and then it just sort of stops for no explainable reason. And when it stops, of course, it sends the email that's really, really long because the stack traces on it is huge. So basically my assumption is it just reaches a length limit and then just stops. I find that triggering using a process to wait for that platform event and then calling a flow from a process is a lot more stable. But then in some cases, the user context it changes, so I can't do what I want to do. Is this sound familiar to anybody?
Mostly, yeah.
I mean, is it just me, or do other people's flows that are sort of waiting and running and waiting and running, do they stop after a while?
Well, I guess, I mean, I know the air quote explanation email is lengthy, but I mean, does it ever give any kind, even a GAC code at the bottom, anything that helps decipher the issue? Because like I feel like in the past, okay, it just exhausts itself.
Yeah, I mean, it works perfectly for 2 months, and then it just stops for no reason. And then I just, I get a call from my client, and it's like, oh yeah, it sounds like the flow stopped. Just go in and run it again.
Doesn't the event subscription have a timer on it by definition? Isn't that what you're bumping into?
You mean when it's going to stop running?
Like I thought that subscriptions have a timer on them that, if it doesn't receive an event in X amount of time, it turns itself off. So you don't have like open event subscriptions, running for infinity. Isn't that? I thought that was a default.
I've never heard of that. Where would?
I'm looking right now. I feel like I've read that.
Huh.
I have the flows with the process with the platform event since 2 years. It never gets stopped.
But are you getting events regularly? I mean,
Yes.
the clock restarts from the last event.
Continuously gets the because every time when the task is created, I raise the platform event so that the asynchronous process will run through the platform event, because every time when the task is created, it has to update bunch of places to do the backend process. So that is the platform event is got used, and it is running almost like 2 years, and we continuously finding it never get stop anything like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like if I'm trying to find it, so I'm not just rambling, but I feel like there's something where every time an event, the subscription picks up an event, it resolves the event and then resubscribes to its point of origin. But eventually those things time themselves out, because otherwise you could have subscriptions open forever, even though they're not functional. So I think in your case, because you're getting daily or regular events, it's reading events, it keeps effectively resubscribing for its time limit. But in the case of this 2 month one, if they're not getting an event in that amount, it's turning itself off. Let me see if I could find that and mute myself and see if I can get you the link to that document, because I feel real confident I know what I'm talking about this time.
Okay, great. Although in this case, I mean, it would not go, these are events when people receive text, and they're texting to people every day. So conceivably, there's nothing happening over the weekend, but we're talking two days maybe when it doesn't fire. So anyway, the other question, have you guys used custom notifications much in flows and in processes? Do you know about the new custom notification feature? It's pretty cool. It allows you to deliver a notification without posting a chatter, which is great. And if you do it from a process, so you go in and you create, let's see, in setups, you have to go to notification types and create a new notification. And basically you just give it a name and say whether you want it to be desktop, mobile, or both. And then that's it. You just reference it from a process or a flow. The challenge I've got is in Process Builder, you can select it as an action, a custom notification, and then whatever you named it will show up on the list. In Flow Builder, though, you actually have to go in and find the ID of that notification type. And you have to go into the tooling API in the developer console to get that. It's really very awkward to get. Normally I would just use Process Builder to fire it, because that would make, I feel like Process Builder is simpler and it's a pretty easy thing. So wait for a platform event, grab the data out of it, and fire off the custom notification. The challenge I've got with that is custom notification has a parameter called target ID. And basically that's the record page that you're going to navigate to if you actually click on the notification itself. So in my case, the little bell rings, you get the red badge, you select you go up, you click the bell, and it drops down, and it gives you that you got a new text from Jackie, and the message is this. And if you click on that, it will actually take you to some page. And the page I needed to take you to is to Jackie's contact page or lead page or wherever. And Process Builder won't let you specify what that, you can't just insert any ID in there or a event reference. It actually has to lock on to whatever related record you cite in the platform event. So in Process Builder, you say, I want a new process, and it's triggered by this platform event, and it says, what record do you want this tied to? And that record wouldn't be Jackie's contact page. It needs to be the conversation, the text conversation that I'm involved with. So it's just my frustration that it's sort of a half implementation of this new feature in Process Builder, where you're locked into certain parameters. They don't let you set them. Anybody there?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I was rambling a while. I thought maybe I put everybody to sleep.
All good. There's a big part of my brain that it was trying to parse through all that, because it's all good information, but there was a lot. And it's appreciated. So
well, I mean, the custom notifications are really, really cool and capable, because you can send people notifications now, especially on mobile. It makes it really super easy to send a mobile notification. And you can put the subject, and you can specify the message of it, and it's really great. But it's sort of inelegant. You have to get the ID if you're using it in Flow, and you are limited if you're using it in Process Builder in terms of what you can target. So that's all I was saying.
No, it's very cool, and we know with any of those new functionalities from release to release, they're only going to grow. So it might be inelegant now. We know it's going to be super slick within a release or two.
Yeah, well, and I just put in an idea. Maybe I'll find a link and post it here. Let everybody upvote it. The idea is what I'd really like to do is, when I create a custom notification, I'd like to be able to specify either the URL of a flow or a Lightning component, so that when you get that notification up there, you click on the bell, it drops down, it says new text from Jackie, and it says, are you going to be on the call, right? I can see that. I'd love a little field right there that I can just click to reply, and boom, it goes in the notification.
Which kind of makes sense, since there's, they already have that available in email. They've had it for years.
Yeah.
In some places.
Well, we'll just have to see what comes next out of the next couple of releases for you. Let's do a quick time check here. We're about a minute till. Do we have any other questions or thoughts? Scott S. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Quick one. And I think you guys will know this one. So I want to make a web page using my Salesforce DevOrg. Is there any caveats with this, like how much traffic you can get or whatever, right? I'm assuming I just go to sites. I already created the domain. And I'm assuming I go to sites, and then I create the site and then edit it. Are there any caveats to, the public nature of it, how much traffic gets hit on it, etc.?
I don't think there's a traffic issue, but depending on what you want people to be able to do, anybody that hits it is in the guest site user context, which is very limited.
Okay, guest, that's good information. Guest site user context.
And if you're running it out of a dev org, any data that you would want to try to surface up, you're going to be limited just by the limited scope of data storage.
Okay, but for just
a site.
Yeah, I'm looking to like have a site where I just put stuff, basically kind of like a homepage, right? Like Scott's Salesforce homepage where I put mostly text on it, right? Like that type of thing.
Or MVP office hours registration. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
You also could build it as a community.
I'm ignorant of that. What's the significance of a community?
Well, it's more, you wouldn't build the pages from scratch. Basically, it's a templatized site builder. I've got the website for my product support running off of my partner business org as a community. And you can set that up with public access or with login access.
So that's in Salesforce community. Oh, thank you, Dale. Dale, right? You're the one driving?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes. So communities. So community settings.
Go on Trailhead and read up on communities.
Okay. So communities will allow me to declaratively do it. Sites will be Visual Force stuff.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay. Okay. And then can you like mix and match those? Is there a way of like having a hybrid if you want to?
I don't know. I mean, the only thing that I've used, I use a REST site. That's the sort of way into the org from an API, an outside API. Back to my app, I use it all the time because anytime a text is received, I get basically a web call from Twilio that's sending in that says, hey, here's a message. And it's got to have a place to call. And so that's the website that it calls to send that data in. So I think of the sites less in terms of a website and more as a REST access point into the org. Whereas communities, I think of much more as a sort of public-facing site.
That's cool.
And on communities, you can expose records, record pages, and lists of records, and all of that kind of stuff. So
can you do Lightning components on communities?
Yeah.
Okay, so you basically could do code on the communities also.
Yes.
And you could link to like other services. Like let's say I have a bunch of data sitting in Amazon or somewhere, and I just want to be able to show that to people, right? So I got a database and I create a service. I could actually show that in Salesforce in my dev org and not hit any data limits because it's not actually in Salesforce, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you pointing out communities to me. Look at that.
Sounds like you just got yourself a weekend project.
Yeah, sure. You can get that done in a weekend. No problem. Yeah. In fact, I can, unless we've got other questions, I can show you Community Builder that I've got for my site. Hang on.
We're actually a couple minutes over time and people are starting to drop off. That's all right. Thank you so much for offering that. Pat, maybe you two could connect up and do a demo outside of this call. Sure. But we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again on September 20th.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Take care.
All right.